Isaac Newton was a pretty smart guy. He came up with all sorts of theories about how the universe works, many of which we still study today and still use today. One of his most famous pieces of work was on motion. In fact, specifically, he came up with 3 laws of motion. So let's go through what those 3 laws are and try and understand what each of them means. So I'm going to read out his laws and then I'm going to translate them into sort of more easy to understand language, and we're going to talk about what it really means. So the first law is every body continues in its state of rest or of uniform motion in a straight line unless it is compelled to change that state by forces impressed upon it. Okay, let's put that in more simple terms. An object will continue to do what it's doing unless a force acts on it. So if an object is moving, it will keep moving at the same speed in the same direction unless a force acts on it. If an object is not moving, it will stay not moving unless a force acts on it. Okay, fairly simple so far, not too bad. Let's have a look at the second law now then. The change of motion of an object is proportional to the force impressed and is made in the direction of the straight line in which the force is impressed. So a translation of that is that when a force does act on an object, the change in momentum is proportional to the force. Now, if we're keeping the mass the same, that means that the force is proportional to the change in velocity of an object. Change in velocity is what we call acceleration. So this law is basically just saying that force is proportional to the acceleration. And we're keeping the mass constant. So in actual fact, what this law is saying is that force equals mass times acceleration. Newton's second law is just F equals ma, pretty much. Now, once you start to consider changing masses, the change of momentum becomes a bit more important, but this is the nice, simple, everyday use of the second law. So let's finally move on to the third law. To every action, there is always opposed an equal reaction, or the mutual actions of 2 bodies upon each other are always equal and directed to contrary parts. Okay, that one's a bit confusing. Basically, you can say every action has an equal and opposite reaction. What it means is that forces always come in pairs. They're always equal in size and opposite in direction. And the force acts on different objects in the same way. So for example, if you push against a wall, that wall is also pushing back against your hands with an equal force in the opposite direction. The gravity that is pulling you down towards the earth is also pulling the earth up towards you. Equal and opposite forces. All right, well, those are Newton's 3 laws of motion. They're not as scary as you might think at first. Just go over them a few times and you'll be good to go.